Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome to the show, where we interview the nation's leading real estate entrepreneurs. I've got a special one in the studio for you here today. I've got David Castrillon in the house, and hopefully I said that last name right. He's going to correct me here if I didn't here in about a minute or so. But David has been in the general contracting space with a focus on the kitchen and bathrooms and how that elevates properties. And this is especially important for those of you that are in the real estate investing space, because as you know, the kitchens and the baths, that's where really a lot of the value of a home is either lost or boosted. And so we're going to go into maybe some tips, tricks, and secrets of the trade as somebody that's been in the business for the last decade, specializing in these. He reigns out in the Baltimore area of Maryland, and we're going to get into a great conversation today. But before we do, just remember, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate entrepreneurs, service providers, and real estate investors 2 to 5x their businesses so they can build the businesses they've always wanted in order to live the lives they've always dreamed of, because that's what we do this thing for in the first place, folks. With that being said, David, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm actually really impressed. Most people cannot pronounce my last name. I'm like, we didn't go over the pronunciation of my last name before the show. How's he going to do this? And you didn't butcher it. So you must have taken a Spanish class once or twice throughout high school or something to know that the 2 L's equals a Y in English.
So funny enough, man, it actually comes from, I actually took 3, if not 4 years of Latin, of all things, in high school. And what I found is, my mom would always tell me, like, Steven, this will pay off later. I know nobody speaks Latin, which that was always my biggest thing. Like, why the hell am I learning this dead language?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. But what I found as an adult is that every Romance language of Italian, Spanish, French, etc., because of my Latin background, I not only am able to pronounce words in other languages, but I also have the roots of what they are, and I can almost tell what the word might be just by reading it. So it's been a very fascinating thing that I never thought was going to turn into actually being one of the biggest benefits, linguistically speaking. But that's another podcast for another time, man. So,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your background, man. What got you into the construction space? I know you and your wife are kind of in tandem. She's on the real estate side of things, and how did you get started, and how did you get to where you're at now today?
Yeah, so a little bit, hopefully I'm not going too far back here, but a little bit of background on me. I actually grew up in the Dominican Republic as a missionary kid. My parents were pastors down there. And so back in the early 90s, we packed up, we moved down there. So remodeling, building, it's kind of just always been a thing. We used to build, churches down there, schools, you name it. We always had some sort of building project going. So I got really good with my hands at a really early age, saw how people like my parents, really struggled financially. They were missionaries that kind of went over there, didn't really have a whole lot of support, didn't really, have a retirement fund or anything like that. They just packed up. They felt like, hey, this is what God wants us to do, and moved our family over there. So I grew up seeing them struggle a lot financially. People would offer to give and support them, and then it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't pan out. This was in the early 90s, so they didn't have a credit card, swiper that they could just get people to donate that way. So that kind of put the motivation in me to become an entrepreneur, because I saw good people like my parents, really struggling to try and do good for others. We did so much humanitarian work down there, but not having the resources to do it. So that gave me the money-making bug, the entrepreneurship bug. And that's when I came back to the U.S. and
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Skill that I had from what I had learned over there, and just, being handy with my dad and all, was remodeling. So I got into it at an early age, worked for several companies doing it, learning the business, and then ultimately my wife and I started our company about 10 years ago.
Holy cow, man. I didn't realize I had Jim Elliott Jr. in the house. That's super cool. So you grew up abroad pretty much like your entire childhood?
Yeah, my whole childhood. Excuse me. It was wild, man. Where we lived, we didn't have running water in the house, So I tell people sometimes I grew up in the Dominican Republic. They're like, "Oh, so you lived at a resort?" I'm like, no. There's Punta Cana, Puerto Plata, the nice touristic areas. We actually lived on the border with Haiti, really rural area. Like I said, we didn't have running water. We grew up in a little hut like the people that lived there. Most of the time we didn't have electricity in our home, so it was very, very humble beginnings. Yeah.
Wow. Now, did you know any different like when you were in it, or was that just kind of like life for you? Because, if I removed my kid, right, from America, like this is so perfect for me. He's going to hate this because I'm going to go home now and I've got a personal friend who I'm going to just be like, look, man, I know a guy who grew up without water. Right. So, right. It's all perspective at the end of the day. But as a kid, did you kind of know that, like, hey, I'm not living like most of the people where I'm from, or was it just kind of like natural everyday life for you?
It's a great question. I knew because I was about 5 when we moved down there. My youngest sister was 2, so she didn't know any different. This is all the life she knew by the time she moved down there and, started growing up. That's what she knew. But no, I knew because I had a good memory of the cushy life that we had here in the U.S. My dad worked for his father-in-law, as a pastor at their church. But housing was provided. There was a parsonage. So we never really lacked, I should say, anything here in the U.S. But once we moved over there, boy, I knew a difference. You know what I mean? We were living in a hut. Gunshots right outside our windows. We were held up at gunpoint multiple times, knife point. All kinds of I could write a book, man. We had some crazy experiences, on the mission field. So I definitely knew. My younger sister didn't. And then I have 2 older sisters. So it's just me and three girls to say an extra prayer for me. But yeah, no, I knew the difference. And the other dynamic too is in these Caribbean countries, like unless you grow up there and you build up the immunities, like, dude, don't ever drink the water. We were sick there like every other week. We had some sort of indigestion or, parasite in our intestines, crazy stuff. So I wouldn't trade it for anything. I feel like living that way and seeing how really, truly the rest of the world lives. Like, we live this way in the U.S. and in the Western culture in general, but the rest of the world, really most of the world lives the way I grew up, which was just in the sticks, man. So I'm very appreciative. I've got 4 kids of my own now, and they're learning to appreciate, as soon as they're old enough, I'm going to take them over there where I grew up so they can see how good they have it here,
Perspective.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Wow, man, that's so crazy. So when you got back to the States, were you an adult at that point, or when did you officially move back
Yeah, I was
full time?
15 or 16. Yep. So I was in high
So
school.
basically an adult.
Yeah, I can't, I lived most of my childhood down there. So yeah, I came back. I was about 15 or 16.
No kidding. And what was that transition like? Was that like coming to America for you almost?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Yeah, we came back to visit. We did come back to visit while I lived there. We would come back and forth, and all. But coming back to live was culture shock. I had never been in school. I had been
Mm,
homeschooled my whole life. So I'm coming
right.
back, I'm a sophomore in high school, and that was culture shock. It's like, whoa, I'm getting invited to parties. And I was a good church kid. I had never been exposed to anything like
Sure.
that. I was an athlete, bigger than most of the kids in my class. I played varsity soccer. So all my friends were seniors and juniors, and I'm getting invited to these parties. And also, yeah, there was definitely a learning curve there. Had my rebellious stage and all of that we all do at one point or another. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I always held on to my values, still do to this day, and I'm passing them down to my kids.
Love that, man. That's super cool. Now, did you meet your wife here in the States, or is there any correlation to your background to meeting her?
Yeah, no, we've known each other. We were like childhood friends. There's a picture of us at a wedding when she was 3, and we were like, I was trying to hold her hand, and she wasn't trying to have it. So we go way back. Yeah, her dad was my dad's best man, and so yeah, we
Wow.
go way back. But we've known her family for years, and when we would come and visit, she's a couple years older than me, and so I was like the little brother because my older sister was best friends with her. I was always shorter than her, so she didn't want to have anything to do with me. I was like the annoying little brother. But then one year I came back. I'm 16 now. I'm taller than her, and she decided to start paying attention to me, and we started dating, and we got married. So the rest
You
is
bet.
history.
Man,
Yeah.
that's real cool. My wife and I have a very similar story. Like to the extent I used to tell people that how I met my wife was I would hit her little brother with a lightsaber when we were 5. Um,
Yeah.
for some crazy reason, it took 20 years post, and then we ended up getting together. But yeah, like I remember stories of my wife where she doesn't even have a memory of it. I remember her accidentally smacking a lady in the face with a pool stick at a YMCA because she didn't
Oh,
want to leave a
geez.
birthday party and someone was trying to take it from her, and she's like, I don't remember that at all. And I was like, well, for whatever reason, I remember seeing it clear as day. So,
That's
uh,
awesome.
so yeah, man, that's a really interesting story because we've known each other for about the same time, which that's a
Yeah.
super cool fabric and tapestry that just gets
Yeah.
interwoven on a dynamic and spiritual level almost. You wanna fathom,
Yeah.
I would bet. So let's transition, man. So you're
Yeah.
back, you're in it, you start your construction company, and was that kind of like I don't know. Was that kind of like destiny for you, do you think? Or what was the thought process behind getting into that versus, going to college and going and working as a business consultant in corporate America? Like, why construction?
Yeah, school was never my thing. I was
Mm,
extremely ADHD as a kid. I don't think I ever did one full schoolwork assignment, as a kid. Part of that was growing up with all the, I know now, with all the traumas that I had as a kid, it was messing with my brain chemistry a
mm,
little bit. I think I just struggled to focus. And so school was never really my thing. I came back, did community college for about a year, hated it, so I'm like, I'm going to go out and start making money. So I actually started a web design company because that's what I went to school for at community college. Did that for a little bit. I was always scrappy. I knew I was going to be in business in some form. So did a little bit of that, did some graphic design, some, media, like video editing stuff, and all. And then I ultimately ended up falling back into what I've always known, and that's working with my hands. Which the other two kind of correlates. You know what I mean? Like I would build stuff. I would just do it on a computer, but then I'm like, with advances in technology, like when I first started with the web stuff, WordPress wasn't even really a thing. Like you were coding CSS files and like, so
Right.
it was easier to charge people a higher premium and make a little bit of money off of a website. Then WordPress came out. I'm like, dang, I don't have a job, So that's when I started doing, just like handyman stuff. I'm like, I know I can work with my hands, and worked for a roofing company for a while. And then, ultimately got into doing the remodeling myself. Started me with two other guys in a pickup truck, and they were my helpers. And, that's how I started the company.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Wow. So now to last a decade, obviously that's not an easy feat, especially for any business, but especially in the construction space and all the evolution of material costs rising and COVID halfway through that happening. And what are some of the things that you've seen evolve in your own process over the last 10 years of being in business that, now you're maybe doing things totally different than when you got started?
Yeah, well, this is coming at a great time because, as I mentioned to you, before we started, a couple of years ago, we kind of pivoted and we said, hey, let's scale this thing, because I'm not even 40 yet, but I'm already like arthritis in my wrists and all, because I was the guy like just doing the work, carpentry, whatever,
Sure.
demo and all. And so we kind of took a step back, and I'm like, hey, do I want to do this forever, or do we want to scale a business? Because there's a difference between being self-employed and owning a business. When you're self-employed, you're really working a job. You're just, working it for the client, and so
Right.
we took a step back, and we've done a lot of, learning, reading books and watching podcasts and all of this. And so we said, hey, if we want to scale this, we got to build systems. We got to change the way we do things. We can't be the system. We have to build out systems. So about 2 years ago is when we started laying the groundwork for that. And I would really say in a lot of ways, we're a startup. Even though we've been doing this for 10 years, we've really only been scaling for about a year and a half, So with that new, everything, man, I mean, just down to the ordering process for materials and like the design process and what does that look like. And now we've got, 15 people that are looking to us for livelihood and wanting to know what the direction is and where we're going and what we're doing. So, there is a big difference. So every entrepreneur has to get to the point where they decide, am I going to scale a business or am I okay? Because there's nothing wrong with having, like, people say that like it's a negative thing. I'm self-employed. Oh, well, that's just a job. There's nothing wrong with that. I made more money then than I'm making now. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have all the overhead of this office, that warehouse, that, it was much easier back then. I didn't have the headache of HR issues and, employee contracts and payroll. So, we pivoted, like I said, about a year and a half ago. We used to also take on anything and everything that came our way. So if someone wanted an addition, we were doing an addition. If someone wanted a deck, the next week we're doing a deck. So what do we do with the leftover materials? It wasn't efficient. So we said, all right, what do we do best? Like, what's our bread and butter? And that was kitchens and bathrooms. And that's why, we rebranded the company to Daybrook Kitchen and Baths. And that's what we've been doing for about a year and a half. And it's growing, so.
And your wife's name's Brooke?
Brooke, yeah.
That's
where
where
the name come from.
I was an educated guess because of David and Brooke. So I was like,
that's right, Daybrook. Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Now, so you also play around in the investing space more passively than actively out looking for deals, but
Right.
with your expertise in kitchens and bathrooms specifically, those are obviously two of the most important places to really focus on during a remodel, a flip, whatever you want to call it. So what are some of the reasons that you started playing in the real estate space in general, outside of just, hey, you know what, we're cutting out doing decks and all this other stuff and whatever? What made you decide to do even any deals in that space
Yeah, I
versus?
think what got us into the real estate, business a little bit, like you said it perfectly. We don't go out looking for deals, but deals come to us by nature of what we do. What
Sure.
gave us the bug, though, was selling our first house. So we bought a
Mm,
foreclosure together. It was our first home. We paid about 360,000 for it, but it was destroyed. It needed a lot of work. It was nasty. I mean, like the shows you watch, it was
mm,
disgusting.
right.
There was a
Cat
nasty
pee in the
divorce.
floors.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a nasty divorce. The husband had sabotaged the house and like stuck tennis balls down into the gutters so the gutters would overflow, had turned the sump pump drain into the basement so that anytime the sump pump would cut on, it would flood the beautiful home. I mean, beautiful home here in Bel Air, Maryland. So we saw it. They were asking 360. We're like, that's a steal in this neighborhood. We're going to get it, and we were looking actively for something that needed the work because of what we do. So we purchased it, fixed it up, lived in it, loved it. Had our first son. It wasn't really conducive for kids. There was a real big slope in the backyard with a lot of hardscaping. So we decided to put it on the market. We paid 360. We sold it for 515. So that's when we got the bug. We were like, holy cow! And we had only lived in it 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And so when we saw that, we were like, oh, there might be something to this, because we had watched the flipping shows and all that, and we're like, oh yeah, right, you're never getting that kind of return. So when we did it the first time, we kind of did a flip, but we lived in it, so we're like, okay, well, so we started looking, and then we found the second deal. It was a townhouse. I want to say that was ridiculous, but we made well over 100 grand. I think it was like 150,000 clear after everything, taxes, fees, everything, about 156,000 somewhere. And that was a townhouse, so we're like, holy cow, there's something to that. So then we started kind of like dabbling in it. We started kind of neglecting our actual business to start looking for deals. We did like a wholesale class and all, and we just couldn't ever really get into it because we kind of had the two lovers situation. You know what I mean? It's like, well, this is our bread and butter. This is what's actually providing for us, but we really do want to do this. So we didn't really need it enough, I think, to make it successful, which is why we didn't make a business out of it. We continued on with our remodeling. But, when we sold our first and then our second flip and then we've been profitable on every one. And we've done really well. Like I mentioned to you before, we've never sold a house for asking price. We've always sold above, so yeah, it's definitely powerful. A lot of it, I will say, is contingent on the market when you're doing fix and flip. So making sure you can get it at a time that the market's good for it is important. But yeah.
What's been one of the nightmare deals you've gotten yourself into, if any?
So I said we've been profitable on every deal. That doesn't mean we've been ultra profitable on every deal. We bought a little townhouse. Boy, this has been not that long ago, maybe 4 years ago or something like that. And I decided, oh, we're licensed contractors. Let's go add on all this square footage to the place. It was a townhouse, so the basement was unfinished. We wanted to add a bathroom in there. The upstairs was a one bathroom. We wanted to split off into two bathrooms and make an ensuite. Anyway, long story short. We were trying to cut costs because it was, a flip. So we brought in a plumber that we had never used before. And he failed our rough-in inspection for the upstairs bathroom twice. On the second fail, the inspector came in and said, rip it all out. I said, what do you mean rip it all out? He said, rip it all out. I said, you mean all of the existing plumbing too? He's like, rip it all out or you're never going to pass this inspection. So that we had to repipe the whole upstairs of that house, which was a major delay. I had to fire that plumber and bring in another plumber. I do everything. I do plumbing, I do electrical, I do all of that on my own stuff. But when you're doing permitted work, obviously, and I say that off the record, but when you're doing permitted stuff, you can't do that. You've got to have, the trades all have to have their licenses in order and so forth. So getting rid of him, bringing in a new plumber, that one hurt. Yeah, that one hurt. I think we ended up clearing, I don't even want to say. We were in it for 6 months, and we cleared maybe 10,000, something like that. So it was really technically that's a loss, you know what I mean? Because of the
Right.
time and energy and what we could have spent that effort on over 6 months, you know? So yeah, that
Sure.
was the nightmare deal that just would never go away. We would have been happy to just pay someone to take it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about time value as well. I think that's the
Yep.
thing most people don't factor in. And, it's interesting because I was just with a friend of mine who owns a fairly large roofing company in our area here recently. And I was talking to him. And one of the things he does for his guys is he actually will take his sales guys and he lets them put in money if they want to, and they all go buy a property together.
Mm.
And he pays them 10% or 10% return on their money guaranteed, whether he makes money on the flip or not. And he goes, but in order to do that, because obviously I'm not going to rip my sales guys off and they're still going to work for me and then they didn't make
Right.
money, he goes, I have to start with $100,000 spread. And he just recently had a deal where he was like, guaranteed this house is going to sell for 400 grand, and ended up selling for 390, which there's 10
Mm.
grand off the 100 right there. Then after concessions and everything, it actually was about 382 was where
Oh,
he
geez.
was at. Then somebody broke in and stole all the staging furniture 2 weeks before closing,
Oh,
so he had to replace that at 7,000 after spending 3 grand for it. And they drug the kitchen across the hardwood floor. Kitchen meaning the stove and the fridge. So then they had to go replace
yikes.
all of the flooring. And so he passively had this deal that he was working on. But at the end of 6 months, what was originally $100,000 profit turned into like 15 grand.
Right.
So
I've been
it's
there.
all of those things that can
Yeah.
happen where you see the shows and it's like this hunky dory, like, oh my goodness, we could go and do a flip, make 70 grand, and you
Right.
absolutely can. But you
Yep.
absolutely can also lose that too on a deal
Yeah.
and all the time associated, right?
100%.
Crazy. So long term, what's next for you? I know we had talked about where you've scaled your business to. You had a benchmark, you've hit that. You don't necessarily want to be a full-time flipper. So like what's really on the horizon for you? Just 12 to 18 months. What's the real big goal for you in life?
Yeah, we are continuing to scale the company. It's been growing. We've hit a plateau. So full transparency, February was the best month we've ever had in the history of the company, which is ironic because February is historically the
Right.
lowest month, of the year. But we did
Especially
over
in
200.
Maryland.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We did over 200K in February, which was a great, mile marker for us. After being a one-man show to now having a team, and but yeah, we want to continue with the growth of the company. We're getting out of the high-end design build, and we're going to more of an affordable. So like our target avatar was, high-end luxury homes. Now we're looking to middle-class America, like, one day bath and shower acrylic remodels. I think that's going to continue to help us to scale, not have so much customization. It's like Chick-fil-A. There's a reason why they only have 12 to 15 items on their menu, whereas McDonald's has, 50 something, whatever it is. So we want to niche down. We want to really specialize. That's why we stopped doing all the other. We rebranded to Daybrook Kitchen and Baths, not Daybrook Construction like we used to. So continuing to simplify and get really, really good at what we're doing. In terms of the real estate, investing, I think I would, if I do anything else in the space, it's going to be more of a long-term play, so buying and holding multifamily, still looking for distressed properties that we can come in and add that equity, because the returns are really, really good when we can come in at wholesale prices and do, these remodels. We also have the design expertise that adds that value to the property. So I think in terms of real estate, buy and hold some multifamilies, maybe get some people in on that. I've got some friends with deep pockets that are always looking for something. How when people have money, they're looking for a place to park the money. They don't want it in the bank, and so maybe get some people together, buy some multifamily. But yeah, keep trucking away with the business and see where it goes. I mean, the long term goal is scale it enough to be desirable for acquisition. We want out. I don't need a legacy business that my kids carry on and pass down to their kids. I'm not interested in that. I don't think they care about that. They're too young to even know. But we want to get to a point where a bigger, the big boys, bath fitter, someone like that comes along and says, hey, these guys are making a splash on the East Coast. Let's make them an offer. And then, at that point, that's where we would really start buying up some multifamily, I think.
You bet, man. Scale it and get your 3 to 5x EBITDA and call it a day.
Yes, sir.
Sayonara.
Yes, sir.
I love that. I like how you have a goal there too, man, because I'm a business junkie, man. Have been for years. And I have, out of all the things I've studied, read, looked into, done myself, failed at, whatever, I've come to deduce that people only build businesses for two reasons. You either build it for the lifestyle that it's going to produce, and that could be generational, it could be the legacy play, whatever. You either build it for the lifestyle or you build it to sell it. Because other than that, it's kind of stupid to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
like said, man, like, you know, it comes with a little bit of maybe some swallowing of pride going and working for somebody else for, you know, a season, or some people are just better entrepreneurs, and some people, they're just better cut to be employees. They need to be told what to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think when you're in the position of being an entrepreneur, you've got to be a little bit of a different breed. You got to have a little bit of a sickness of wanting things to be better, and no one else can do it better than you can. So I think there's a little bit to that at play. But yeah, man, like, if there wasn't a major reward at the end of it, either in the lifestyle or the exit, like, there's no reason for any of us to do it. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
I'm with you, man. Well, where can these fine folks connect with you, learn more about what you're working on, David, and connect with you for more?
Yeah, so at Daybrook Homes is the best spot. You know, that's our Instagram feed, and they get on there and see what we're doing, what's going on. And yeah, we're active in the messages and comments. So
100%. We'll go show them some love from the real estate pros and the investor fuel community, folks. Appreciate David being here. Thanks so much, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.